What's up, Instagram? How's it going? It's Greg here at Fisherman's Headquarters checking in. Say hello. Good evening to you all. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for logging on. Just wanted to let you guys know we got a special guest this evening. Brooks from Cortland Line is going to be joining in a moment. We're going to be talking about some fishing line. For those of you who don't know about Cortland and don't know much about fishing line, this should be a good interactive talk. If you've got any questions in regards to fishing line, fire them in. We got a couple messages earlier today. I got them over here on my screen. And there's definitely a comment section down there. Feel free to fire them in there. So anybody doesn't know, Cortland is a line company from New York. They make some great stuff for inshore and offshore fishing. And they also make a bunch of really, really good fly stuff. That's kind of where the company started, where the roots are way back when. So let me dig down here, see if Brooks is on, and see if I can get him to join us here. And we will talk fishing line with Brooksy. So let's see what we got here. Brooks, are you there, buddy? Waiting for Cortland. So here we go. Brooksy, are you there, bud? So while we're waiting for Brooks, if you guys don't know, they make Master Braid. It's one of their braided lines. It's one of our best-selling lines. Brooksy, what's up, man?
What's up, Greg?
How we doing, dude?
Good. I had some technical difficulties over here.
It's all good, man. It's all good. So let me just adjust my phone here. Thank you so much for joining this evening. I'm really looking forward to talking fishing line with you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So how's it been going? Good?
Pretty good. I mean, all things considered, I know everyone's been dealing with all this chaos, for the last couple months, but luckily we're in the fishing industry, so and I'm sure everyone that's on tonight, is a hardcore fisherman. So for guys that haven't been working, they've been out fishing, so it's been good. And I know things have been tough. I know stuff's been tough for you as it has for us. So it's just nice to get back to normal.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're kind of picking days here to figure out when we can start opening back up. I know you with the factory and manufacturing. I'm sure you're chomping the bit to get product cranking again, right? I'm assuming you're starting to run low on some stuff.
Yeah, it's been a couple months, but we're back in there now.
You're back in.
We're back in there now. I mean, New York is similar to New Jersey in the way things happen from the get go. And the way things are opening up now, it's very similar. But yeah, we're in there. We're braiding. We're spooling. We're shipping.
Cool.
And things are looking good, and we'll be ready for prime season here for the next few months.
Awesome. So, dude, I wanted to ask, kind of start this off, asking a little bit about Cortland. I mean, I'm not sure. I know you're dialed in. You've been there for a number of years. I mean, you're not like the founder there, but just so people that might not know, Cortland Line, obviously there's some huge behemoths in the fishing line industry in that market. And I know that you guys are definitely a growing brand. I know for me, I fallen in love with your products years ago. I mean, we've been selling your stuff for a long, long time. I mean, back in the 80s, Cortland was like the name in background.
Sure.
Obviously fly line for so many years. And I guess in the more recent times, in the last decade or so, I really don't know how far it stretches back. Your Spectra braids, your Master Braids and your hollow core, the C16 and such. So maybe you can share a little bit about, kind of what of who Cortland is.
Sure. Cortland was founded in 1915. We're in upstate New York. We're about a half an hour south of Syracuse as far as a landmark goes, because you probably don't know where Cortland, New York is. We are in true farm country, upstate New York. It's a gorgeous place to live, gorgeous place to fish as well. But yeah, Cortland was founded in 1915 as a sporting goods company. We've always had braiders in that plant. For one thing or another, we actually turned over our braiders from sporting goods into wartime efforts during World War II. We braided bomb cord, bootlaces, parachute cord, and then after World War II, we transferred back to the sporting goods sides of things. We were one of the first to create a PVC fly line, which is the modern day fly lines that everyone uses now. That was a transition from the old braided silk lines that people used to use back in the day. So when we did that, we also, like you said, were one of the first braiding companies and also monofilament companies back in the day that we were making Dacron forever. We still make Dacron. We're one of the only few that continue to make Dacron, which is a great product for various reasons. So we continue, right through that. And Cortland was one of the first to use spectra fiber, which is the best fiber to make for super braid lines right now. Everything has grown tremendously, coatings, waterproofing, the coloring, as well as the fly line side of things between our clear floating fly lines, entry-level fly lines for beginners. We really sell a wide range of items for all fishermen, but the sport fishing side has grown tremendously, for well over 100 years now. So it's been a long ride. It's a very cool place to work. I was actually born in Cortland, New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I grew up about 10 minutes up the road on a small lake. I was super lucky, and
That's awesome.
out of college, I one of my buddies that worked there asked me to work at Cortland, and I started in the plant mixing fly line, and I've just since worked my way up into sales. So there's really not a question I can't answer when it comes to Cortland.
That's awesome. That's why we got you here, man. So that's cool, man. You definitely taught me some stuff. I mean, I know Cortland's been dialed in for so long, but I didn't know your roots, in the company, and I didn't really know much about some of these other, say, more important milestones along the way. So I know you guys, obviously, with the silk lines and braiding, Cortland has been braiding forever, basically, from their infancy.
Yep.
And it really goes to show you guys have a really top quality product. I mean, I know, I'm not sure if Blake on here, Cedar Run Lures is on here. He's one of the main guys splicing at our shop. And I know just with big game fishing, there's a huge trend in, say, the last 5-10 years. Obviously, it's been around much longer than that, but the trend's really been much more commonplace now, more recently, where guys are starting to transition over to kind of a monofilament and a hollow core spectra backing kind of blend, whether it's half and half or a 1/3, 2/3, whatever it may be. Using that as main line and then a monofilament top shot. And it's just something that I know that I really grew a lot of faith in Cortland, the brand, the company, the product, just dealing with splicing lines and dealing with spooling of lines and just basically experiencing the consistency of a top quality product. I mean, there's other lines made in America, there's other brands out there, but it's just something that me personally, I never really experienced in these other brands because people come in, they ask for all sorts of stuff. I mean, there was a long time where I think you guys were making lines for other companies, but there's just something to be said for the consistency that I see at the retail store level when we're actually opening the spools and putting thousands and thousands and thousands of yards through our fingers, putting the line on the reels. Can you talk a little bit, or can you explain a little bit about maybe how you guys can be so consistent, or how you can create such an awesome product that's basically so consistent and true, kind of spool in and spool out? Like, we don't find, which this is very, very common with other brands. I don't want to mention certain ones, but it's very, very commonplace to find these gnarly splices that basically look like a 2-year-old, took two ends and just kind of did some wonky, I'm not going to call it a knot, but some sort of wonky splice right in the middle of, let's say a 4,000, 3,000, 5,000 yard spool. Right at the 4,000 mark, it's like we're almost to the end of it, but you still got 1,000 yards of legit line.
Sure.
So there's this wonky splice. I don't find that in Cortland.
Sure.
I don't find these big lump dumpy kind of thin spots or clumpy spots. So maybe if you could share a little about your manufacturing quality, your processes there. Obviously don't get too much into the secret stuff, but whatever you might want to share to kind of let some of these anglers know that are watching that don't know much about Cortland, that maybe you could share about the quality you guys offer.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and there's two sides of the thing of this question. Our solid braid and the master braid, and then the hollow core. Our master braid is unique in the sense that we braid unique constructions. We don't braid necessarily a 4 carrier or an 8 carrier. We braid carriers from 4 to 6 to 8 up to 12.
So time out a second. So you mentioned these industry terms, carriers.
Sure.
I don't think that the vast majority of say saltwater anglers or maybe freshwater anglers know much about braided line in terms of carriers. So can we maybe take one step back and say, how do you actually make braid, right? So you obviously get a raw material and then it's braided. And then, where does the carrier, what is the carrier? How does that all come about?
Sure. So, to start, the braider, our fibers that we use are pure spectra fibers. They are the best, highest quality fiber that you can buy in the world, bar none. That's the base level that we begin with, and that's where the quality starts at Cortland. Is we use the highest quality of fiber. So we buy fibers in various denier sizes. And then we use those various denier sizes depending on what the pound test that we're going to make. And then we also dictate what the pound test we're going to make based on the carriers we use. What that means is each individual fiber that makes your line. So a 4 carriers of 4 individual fibers braided together versus 6 versus 8 versus 12 versus 16, like the hollow core stuff.
Yep.
So that is unique to Cortland, and I know no one else does that. But what we do in the sense that our carriers are individual per size, plus the deniers are very specific to each pound test. That allows us to be a little bit different in terms of, how things are constructed, plus the fibers, plus the denier sizes. Another thing that we don't do is we don't heat stretch. So what heat stretching does is it elongates your yield. So, you'll braid to 5, 6, 7,000 yards on a braider, and a heat stretch will prolong that from 15, 20, 25%. So that will make your yield, your overall length of the braid up much longer, which gives you more yardage. The problem is with that is over time, you're going to see a breakdown. It's less durable. There may be or may not be a break-in period. So our constructions, when you talk about our braid at Cortland, is pure as it can get, both the denier size and the carriers. So that is definitely unique to Cortland, as well as our FiberTech coating in terms of waterproofing, and also our color last that we have, no bleed. Those are definitely unique to Cortland, and that's definitely helped us stand out among the rest in terms of quality.
Awesome.
The 16 carrier side of stuff, the hollow core, our C16 is by far the easiest to work with, and I know guys like you and Blake and other shops, they really appreciate being able to work with the braid. When you're, getting down into the fine things of items, in splicing, doing backsplice loops, it's just when you have a braid that's a 16 carrier that's easy to splice, it makes a world of difference for the shops and for captains, making wind-ons and such. So that definitely sets us apart. All of our hollow cores, including our new 40-pound hollow core. So we offer 40, 60, 80, 100, 130, and 200. Those are all 16 carrier braids. So our hollow core is unique in itself in that it's all 16 carrier. That's also included with the FiberTech technology and our color last. So we're definitely a lot different than other brands. Again, it's all braided right in upstate New York, and it's all with U.S. spectra fibers. So it's a top quality. I mean, you're paying for the best when you pay for Cortland. So we're proud of that, and I know it makes guys like you appreciate it, and it makes your life easier, when you work with it day in and day out.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of comments actually came in. I'm not sure if you see them on your end. Cedar Run Lures, for those who don't know, that's Blake. He works at the shop, and he does a lot of the splicing. He basically said kind of what you said, Brooks, which is, it's the best hollow core he deals with. Obviously, we have some other brands. We can't just supply one hollow core just in case there is a shortage like that. Everyone has their own preferences, stuff like that. Most people, I think, in the last couple of years have switched over to Cortland just because they've used it and loved it and fallen in love and kind of switched over from other brands they've had issues with or they weren't happy with, whatever the case may be. But he kind of said, I can splice Cortland with a blind, with a blindfold, which is which is honestly, it's true. If you know what you're doing, you can kind of feel it. You can do it. You really have to look at it. It's not like you're dealing with that much. It's super easy to work with. I'm not sure who OG Tricky Dicky is, but he says easiest splicing braid in the market, American flags. So totally agree with you. Super big fan. Now you mentioned that your price is high, but I'm kind of going to say that it's pretty reasonable. All spectra, hollow core spectras are pricey, and I think you somewhat fall in line with a lot of the other brands out there, at least the quality brands that are out there. And you're not definitely, in my opinion, you're not off the charts. I mean, you're definitely in line there. But with the master braid, it's actually something that we get asked regularly. Anglers might come in, they say, "Hey, fill me up with braid," which is a common request we get on a daily basis. And it's like, "Oh, what kind of braid do you want?" And they're like, "I don't know, whatever you suggest." And we'll show them, say, "Hey, I fished this. Here's a couple other lines. Take your pick, feel them, see what you're thinking, or what are you doing with it?" And we can kind of give some suggestions. And it's just something that I noticed that customers will try it, and then they'll come back for another spooling on a different reel because the stuff lasts a really long time. Sure. They'll say, "Hey, last spooling I went with, master braid. Can you fill these two reels up too?" And then when they a lot of times they'll ask and say, "Oh, how does that compare in price to this other one?" And to be honest, out of all the braids we sell, I think Cortland Master Braid is somewhat one of the most competitive price lines there are as far as solid braid goes. I'm not sure exactly if it's like dead on or like just a shy less, but you definitely are very, very competitive with price in terms of the broader market. I mean, there are some real cheap lines, like you mentioned, some companies that are, making things however they're doing it to stretch the line and get the most yield out, like you mentioned, to kind of bring the price point down and to do whatever they're doing in design and engineering of their lines, what have you. But definitely one thing I've noticed is your lines are very, very good quality. For sure, that's, front and center. And for me, they're consistent, but they're also priced right, which is something that you normally don't see in the marketplace. Normally, if you're going to buy something that's super consistent, super good quality, you're going to pay an arm and a leg for it. It's off the charts price-wise. Or it's cheap, and it's cheap, and it's cheap. You don't get the quality, you don't get the quality. So it's something that I found that there's
Right.
a really balance with the Cortland brand.
Yeah, so I mean, the number one thing is, obviously the use of our spectra fiber, and you're going to get the longest lasting braid out of a spectra fiber. When you buy braids that are cheap, that's what you're buying, and they're just not going to last long. You're going to get wind knots, you're going to get bleed, and that's really the difference with our stuff. I mean, yeah, we love to be competitive in pricing, and we have no problem being at the top level in terms of price. I mean, you are paying for American-made products. You're paying for labor in upstate New York. You're supporting a small company. We're there for you. You can pick up the phone. You can get a hold of me at the plant if you have a question.
That's actually something that I realized when I was first getting more into the fly industry kind of side of retail, fishing, where I knew just enough to be dangerous, and I didn't know the most about, really focusing and dialing in on specific lines. When you start looking at these different tapers and different, kind of lines, it seems like there's so many options. It's somewhat overwhelming to both a retail consumer, but also myself being, ordering for a tackle shop. And I remember I called it numerous times. I know I've spoken to you in the past, but there's also been other people at the factory that have answered the phone, and they'll just basically speak their mind and tell you right up, here's some suggestions. Here's just it seems like everyone there is dialed in. It's not like you have a secretary answering the phone that is just basically pushing papers around. It means a lot to call a company, everyone's kind of dialed in and they're all on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're a small company. We have about 30 people that work in the plant, as well as the office. But that's the difference between working with a company like Cortland and dealing with a giant corporation. Is you can pick up the phone if you have a problem or you have a question. You can talk to us. Our customer service team is phenomenal. The guys in the back that braid, the people that spool. It's an incredible team at Cortland. Everyone knows each other's jobs. Everyone can kind of be interchangeable. People are very aware of what's going on, and it's a great place to work as well. So I mean, that's another thing that sets us apart. Is just the customer service side of things. Obviously, we're on the East Coast. I mean, we really are just right up the road from you guys. So,
Yeah.
it makes it easier to ship on the East Coast. All the phenomenal fishing that we have. So, um, like I said, it's a great place to work, and everyone is just well versed to the ins and outs of our braid. How it's made, where it comes from. The number one thing is just we're proud of how it's made. We're proud of where it comes from, and we're proud that we don't cut corners. So everyone is very happy to pick up the phone and talk to someone if they have questions, work out problems, and it makes my life easier, and I know it helps customers and it helps shops.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So a couple questions came in. JLITT Fish says, what pound test do you recommend for the surf, braid, or mono? So it depends on what pound test. The pound test depends on what your application is, what you're doing. In my opinion, if you're fluke fish right now, fluke opens on Friday. 20, 30 pound braid is all you need for fluke fishing off the surf. You start getting into fishing lures, 30 pound, 40 pound is somewhat common on, say, an 8, 9 foot surf outfit. You start getting to bait fishing, you're chunking bunker, fishing, different baits off the surf. You're probably getting that 50 to 65 pound range. Personally, I chunk bunker with 80 pound. I believe your 80 pound is about the diameter of like 17 pound test mono. Correct me if I'm wrong. Once upon a time, in the days of mono, 17 to 20 pound, 25 pound mono is somewhat common to chunk with off the beach. I like the thickness of it. On a bigger reel, you get more than enough line capacity. So I personally chunk with 80 pound, not for the strength, but more for the thickness, and it just feels like it casts nice and it's easy to deal with on the beach with wet hands and such. So you're nodding, so I assume you're going along with what I'm saying.
Yeah, you got to factor in distance as well. I mean, a little thinner braid, a little lighter braid is going to go a little farther, but a little bigger braid, you're going to be able to catch big fish like our boy Dante there. You're going to bump up to a bigger braid to catch some bigger fish. So, I mean, it really all depends on the species you're targeting, and that's really the biggest thing. But you're spot on as far as 20, 30, fluking, and then, getting right up there into the bigger stuff when you're bunker fishing.
Yeah, so Magic Tail Bucktails, Dante, I know you've been fishing Cortland forever. If you're on there, dude, drop a comment. Let us know what you caught that monster on the other night. We would like to know. I'll blow the spot up and give you a shout out for props for catching a slob fish the other night. I know you want to keep it on the DL, but it's been a week, bro. Let the cat out of the bag already. What pound braid you fishing? Give us a little love. So yeah, I just kind of scrolled up, looked at a couple. Somebody says something about SUNY Cortland students. I guess that's a school by you.
SUNY, yes, it's State University of New York.
So this guy Ryan saying you need to hook him up. I don't know if they have a fishing club, but maybe they can come to the factory and clean up some things there one night. Maybe.
Yeah, that's the best part about us. I mean, we're a mile down the road, so I mean, you can stop in any time. Sometimes people are busy, but most of the time, someone's going to sit there and chat fishing with you. I give plant tours once a week. People that just come up from Florida, New Jersey, come down from Canada, come over from Buffalo.
That's cool.
It's a great place to work, and we're happy to show you what we're all about. So yeah, when school's back in session, swing over.
I say what's up. So Corey K Fish says I'll take that when I drop my reels off Saturday. So he's dropping some reels off, get some new line. I'll definitely get you spooled up. If it's not me, dudes at the shop will get you rocking. We actually have a charter this Saturday, so Corey will be jumping aboard and hopefully go get some good fishing in. Blake, one of the main guys at the shop, says any metered line in the plans. So there's a lot of guys that are trolling for striped bass using your braids, and when they're trolling, they like to drop back and kind of know how far back they're dropping. Obviously, for jigging purposes, some guys like to, if they're jigging deeper water, let's say 400 or 500 feet of water, and you want to say, hey, let me target that 300 kind of foot zone depth. Do you have any ideas? Have you guys thought about metered line, or is that not even the littlest thought?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always trying to push the limits and do things that people need, people want. Like you said, whether it's trolling or deep dropping, And as we work towards those things, I mean, questions like those and comments like those, whether it comes from your customers or you, we'd love to know, the metering factor. Like, what's the metering length that people really want, whether you're deep dropping or trolling, whether it's 15 feet or 15 yards or 50 yards or 100 yards. I mean, that kind of stuff really helps us out. And
For sure.
we're open to suggestions, and that's what makes, working for Cortland really nice is we're not closed minded. We really rely on guys like you, your customers. What can we make a little bit better that's currently in the market that, can be used for those same applications. So absolutely. I mean, we'll work towards it. And, it's comments like those that are going to help us kind of forge ahead to make, a perfect product in the future.
Cool. Awesome. It's definitely good to hear. I know that right now it's not like the time of say that the year or of the decade to start thinking about new products with all the stuff going on, but it's cool to see that you guys are flexible like that. Another question came in from ebruz12, says small sharks off the surf recommended test on a 6,000 size reel. So because the question started with small sharks and a 6,000 reel, I would say a 50-pound braid would be my suggestion. Obviously, if you have a bigger reel, say 7, 8, 10,000 or bigger, I'd say a 6,000 50-pound braid, in my opinion, just so you have the line capacity. You don't always want to just go for a heavier line if it's not going to actually give you the ability to fish that or warrant fishing that heavier line. You need to have the drag capabilities in the reel to fish a heavier line. So to me, I would stay reasonable, and I think that the 6,000 reel 50-pound test would be a good choice. I guess Blake said 30-pound braid, so I'm not sure what he's. Maybe I'm missing something there, but so Power Pro Slick 8 is best for casting. Yeah, I'll leave Power Pro Slick 8 aside. That's an 8-carrier braid. I know some people love it. Personally, I've had nothing but bad problems fishing the brand, so I'll leave it there. Proud to be pro staff for Cortland Line. So fishing with Andrew C. I guess you know him, Brooks. Super stoked. We got a pro staff for Line on here for Cortland Line. Definitely happy to hear that you guys are fishing your line. So yeah, I didn't hear anything. That now I'm putting two and two together. I'm sorry. I was missing the point. So it sounds like Dante caught that massive fish. When I say massive fish, like a 50-pound striper, definitely high 40s on 30-pound master braid, which is awesome. And I believe Blake mentioned it. He's the one who commented that because he knows because he filled the reel. Now I'm putting two and two together. So I was a little bit confused at first there scrolling through these, but I kind of got my gears turning. Just while I'm on messages, a few were sent in. Cole was one of them. He saw our story where we put a countdown up earlier saying we're going live with Brooks from Cortland Line. Guys, got any questions, send them in. One of them came from the guy Cole. He just put a 1 up. So I assume that is Cortland Line is number 1. So we would definitely agree with that, Cole. I would agree that Cortland Line is number 1. It's what's on all my reels, whether I'm fishing, fly fishing inshore, in the ocean, the bays, whether it's master braid on an inshore tackle, and offshore C16. So definitely I agree, Cortland number 1. Another question came in from Mason Hannah 12. Says best bang for your buck fishing line, ? So I think we kind of touched on that. I would have to say it's going to be Cortland master braid. There's definitely cheaper lines out there. There's definitely more expensive lines out there. But in my opinion, coming from the retail side of fishing tackle and also from the charter boat side, I'm a captain. People pay me to take them fishing. I fish Cortland. I fish Cortland for a number of reasons, which I mentioned before, but I'll recap them. It's quality, it's consistency, and it's price. And all three of those kind of come together, and they create a great value, which I think Cortland offers. So Mason, best bang for your buck, Cortland master braid. Strongly suggested if you haven't fished it, check it out. Another question, just to knock these questions out of here, then we can dive into some other talk. From Salvatore, I gave him a wave in the comments a little bit ago, and I saw he kind of gave a wave. So he's looking to spool up a BG 4000. So that's a popular Daiwa BG 4000. What would you recommend? Thinking 20 to 30 pound braid. He mentioned a brand before that, but I'll skip over that brand. I would suggest on a 4,000, I would suggest 30-pound master braid. Um, that's what I personally have on my BG 4000s. And I think that no matter what you're doing with that BG 4000, you're going to cover all your bases. You could be tog fishing. Obviously, it's closed right now, but when you say go, 4,000 reels definitely popular for tog jigging. If you're fluke fishing, definitely a little on the bigger side for fluke, but 4,000 definitely used for fluke. 30-pound would be totally fine. If you're casting that off the surf, let's say you got that on an 8-foot plug and rod, 30 pounds going to cover that. Maybe you're casting lures to bluefish, to stripers, maybe even albies show up. Just about any species we have here in the Northeast. That being said, I don't know where Salvatore is located. Maybe he's in Florida and he's catching, redfish. Maybe he's catching snook. Maybe he's catching some smaller sharks. Maybe he's flounder fishing, what have you. I think 30-pound would be the way to go. So that was my 2 cents. If you've got any questions for me, Brooks, or if you got any things to go off of, shoot them my way. I've got a couple things I wanted to talk about. Some of these things you kind of steamrolled right through in a really, really, really good, smooth fashion in terms of talking about your process and how you make stuff. I know one of the things I really wanted to focus on was Cortland's a small business. It's one of the reasons why, I like fishing your line. It's one of the reasons I like supporting the brand. And I feel comfortable when a customer comes in and say, hey, give me a suggestion online. It's like, hey, this is what I fish. These guys rock. Check it out. And everybody falls in love with it. So that definitely is something I want to talk about before that I'm happy you touched upon. Talked about the materials. We talked about the pick counts, the carriers, maybe not so much the pick counts, but we kind of dove into some of that manufacturing process, which I don't think a lot of people that fish braid really know much about. One of the things I don't know if you did say, which I feel is superior with Master Braid, that I wrote down in my notes, is that I find that there's a lot more abrasion resistance in your line than I found in previous lines that I fished in the past. So I don't want to mention the previous lines I've fished. Some of them were sent in that message and also messages before. There's so many other brand names out there. I'm not going to dive into them and get this all muddied up. I want to kind of keep this focus on Cortland. But I just noticed that I fished a lot of lines. A lot of reps come in and give us free line and say, hey, here's a free spool. Fish this. If you fall in love with it, sell it. And we stock a bunch of lines, but for a number of years I've been fishing Cortland. I'm super happy with it. So in your side, how do you guys make such an abrasion resistant line?
Sure. Like I mentioned before, it really starts with the base fiber with spectra. When you cut out a spectra fiber and you implement another fiber, it's going to negate that whole abrasion resistance. Spectra is an incredible fiber for tons of different uses, but one, definitely fishing line. So that's really where it all starts, is the spectra fiber. But two, like I mentioned before, the lack of heat stretching compared to some other brands. When you have a braid that's really strong and really tight, and then you heat stretch it and you make it really thin, and you say, "Hey, our braid's way thinner." Well, there's a trade-off there, and we really hang our hat on having an equally thin braid to brands, as well as a super high abrasion resistant braid. So, there's really those two factors play into the most. The spectra fiber and the lack of heat stretching, which, like I said before, is not cutting corners. Our Fiber Tech technology, it definitely helps add a little stiffness to the braid. It prolongs that braid. It really makes a braid with no break-in period, and it doesn't really get soft and wilt over time, which create wind knots, as well as a pick count, which you mentioned before. We have, like a mid-20s pick count, which really makes like a really solid, dense braid.
So real quick, just to stop you there. So
Sure.
just to know, what is that pick count in terms of that weave? Because I'm not sure if people know.
It's a pick per inch. So basically, it's
how many picks per inch?
Yeah, it's as fast as those braiders are moving and interweaving, right? In addition to the take up and how that those picks per inch and those deniers that we talked about in carriers are jamming up inside there and making a pick per inch. So a higher pick per inch is going to make a little more denser braid. A lesser pick per inch is going to make a less dense braid. Less dense tends to be associated with a little more wind knots. It'll be a little thinner. So there's a trade-off, you know, when we get questions all the time. It's like, do you have a diameter chart of your braid? And they say, well, this 30 is, you know, a little bit less than your 30. It says, you know, but well, what's the pick per inch? What's the fiber? So there's multiple factors that play into braid in terms of abrasion resistance, you know, base material, picks per inch, you know, and stuff like that. So I don't want to get into the weeds of everything, but that's just kind of the rundown of really what you're looking at. So if another brand, you know, if you're like, hey, this is thinner, it might not, you know, be the best as far as just because it's a little thinner. You know, you got to take account, you know, one, base fibers, carriers, picks per inch, you know, and that stuff. So it's
the ultimate strength and durability.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that play into it. But again, we're just not cutting corners, and it makes a huge difference. And people that fish our braid definitely take note of that.
So this might be a curveball, man. It kind of just came up in my head as you were just talking. So before I mentioned some reps come in and give samples of line. I'm not going to go and say the name that I had, but I was given a sample of line, and the reason I want to mention is because maybe you have an answer for it. I was given line, and I just seemed like every time I spooled up with it, this was 5 years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago. I spooled up with it. Every time I would tie onto a leader, I'd pull tight, and this knot would snap. And it was 30-pound braid, and I just know that, you know, 30-pound, you're tying a braid to a fluoro leader. I mean, I know how to tie knots, right? You know, and it just seemed to be very easy to break, and it was obviously super thin. It felt like nice line, a little on the waxy side. I guess they were putting some kind of finish on it, but I just remember that I broke it like 3 times in a row tying a leader, and I instantly right then and there was like, got this off my spool. And I forget, at that time, I don't know what line I was fishing mostly, but like I got rid of that, we'll call it sample braid that I was given, like right away. I mean, do you like kind of contribute that possibly to companies doing that heat stretching to get a thinner diameter? And maybe even though it was marketed as 30, it was really, I don't know, a 25 or a 20-pound? Or, you know, could this be something where there's maybe less carriers and less picks per inch? I mean, all braids should break at whatever their ratings are. I mean, I assume you guys on a routine basis test your lines.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you're selling a 30-pound braid, it better break over 30. If you're or, you know, in 20, in 40, and 50, if it's breaking just at that, it's not going to cut it. You know, all braid, it should over test. Even the other brands, it should test over a little bit, because you got to factor in, you know, a knot in there. And we have a calibrated Instron machine at Cortland that we break all of our braids. We break our fly lines, we break our fluorocarbon, break the mono, right across the board. So
you guys do all your testing in house.
Yeah, and
awesome.
It's done on an Instron machine, and it has to be calibrated sometimes twice a year to make sure that it's really dialed in. So, you know, we do all that in house. Again, take a lot of pride in that as well. So, you know, some of the factors that you might, you know, have experienced with the other braid, like I said, some of the cheap stuff that's coming from overseas or even from within the U.S., you know, some Vectran fibers, some Dyneema fibers. While they are technically a super braid, you're just not working with the best, which is Spectra. And, you know, that's the problem with some of those super braids is when you know, they might break nice on a straight pull. You know, a guy might say, wrap it around your hand, I'll wrap it around mine, and let's pull us. And it's like, it's really good. Well, when you tie a knot in that and they're overlapped like that, that's when they bite into each other, and it's game over as far as the, you know, the knot strength and the break strength. So again, starting with a base material that's the best in the world, it makes all the difference.
Awesome. So just what you said, you mentioned the terminology Spectra, the brand name Spectra. What is Spectra?
So Spectra, scientific term, I guess. I don't want to really dive into this, but it's ultra high molecular weight polyethylene fiber. I don't even know if I said that right, but that's what it is.
No, I think you dialed that right in.
So it's like a UHWPME is kind of the abbreviation for it. But for lack of better knowledge or term, it's the best. I mean, they make bulletproof jackets out of that. They layer spectra on top of itself. So that's really what you're buying. You're buying braid that's bulletproof. For kind of dummy terms. And I mean, that's what I use when it comes to that and explaining the braid. It's unbelievably strong. They're making military helmets out of it, bulletproof jackets out of spectra. Obviously a little bit different than a braided fishing line, but you're buying something that's bulletproof at the end of the day.
Cool. So I just saw a couple of these comments. Like I scrolled up, and I guess I wasn't seeing some of these newer ones come in. So somebody else suggested, you said I'll go with 30 pound, just kind of reach out. And I was on that one comment about Salvatore. He said he's on Central Jersey fishing by the hook, so that's awesome. I think what we gave you was a dialed in answer because we're in the Northeast here, New Jersey, New York area, kind of fishing here. Corey mentioned, he's got a 6,000 Stradic. He's gonna be bait fishing, fishing bait, clams, bunker, worms. What size should I fill up with? I would suggest him a 6,000, 40 pound. Can even go 50 pound, but I think 40 pound would be the way to go if you're looking for more casting distance. But we can talk about that at the shop when you drop off, or on our charter Saturday. We can talk more in depth about that. That'd be my suggestion. Going back to Sal again, message. Thanks for your response. Will this be archived on YouTube? So yes, we are doing our best. When I say we, us at Fisherman's Headquarters, myself, Greg, to put out these informational posts. And so long as the Instagram platform allows, to save them and archive them at the end. Sometimes, and this is probably our 15th broadcast, I think about that, it's the 15th or 16th. I think we've only been able to save 10 of them. So 5 have been lost, and it sucks because it seems like the best ones are always lost. This one's, in my opinion, one of the better ones. So I got my fingers crossed over here. You can't see them behind the camera or off to the side of the camera. But I'm got my fingers crossed that this will be saved and everything will go smoothly at the end. So those that are following, if you want to get some information, kind of what we've been rambling about, this will be archived on Fisherman's Headquarters YouTube page. And there's also other ones that are also posted on there. If you want to go back and look a little bit, there's actually also a video of myself and Brooks doing some fly fishing in some really gnarly conditions, catching some false albacore. There might also be a video on there, both Brooks and I fishing for some bluefish in some gnarly conditions. It seems like you and I always get involved in gnarly conditions and somehow trying to me position the boat and you try to cast at somewhat good fishing. I mean, we've gotten into some really good fishing over the years together, which is awesome.
Every time. We haven't gotten skunked yet since we've been out.
I'll say that, man. Well, dude, I guess you're dialed in, so it makes my life easy, man.
Just keep tying my jig rods for bluefin, and we'll be all right. I'll do the fly stuff. You do my conventional stuff. We'll be all right.
Right on. So Ebraz says, Super Slick 2, it's so good, but is it really though? I like that emoji. I'll just go right over that, and I'll let you, if you guys are fishing it, you're using it, hopefully you can be your own test and review of that, is if it's good or is it really though. So Western fly fishing, let's get a little fly here. He says, when are you guys coming to float a river with us? So I'm not sure where Western fly fishing is. Do you know those guys?
Western fly fishing.
I don't know if that's like a retail shop or if it's like a guide service or just somebody on Instagram with a cool name or whatever it is. But maybe you guys should reach out to Cortland and say, hey man, let's go. Invite the boys over. And once this quarantine's over, you guys can have a good jamboree on the river.
Yeah, I'm all down for a good river float.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't know anything about floating rivers, but put me in the game, bro. I'm going to do a float.
You're basically getting in a boat with no motor with some oars. It's like the most quiet, peaceful thing, and it's awesome.
It's awesome. So Corey just said thanks for the info. Definitely shout out Corey. I'll see you soon, buddy. So Western Fly Fishing says he's out in Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. definitely sounds like God's country. So I think I'm in. I don't know when the fishing's right or whenever this stuff clears through, or I don't know if that area even has COVID. So maybe we should just go now.
Yeah, not that they're that's trout mecca out there in the Rockies. Wait for either pre runoff or post runoff. Those guys have a much different fishing experience than we do here in the Northeast. Like our runoff, in upstate New York, because of the snowpack, and it's over by mid-April. We're in prime shape. Those guys, I mean, usually late June and July, they're starting to get into it a little bit. But talk about high, dirty, muddy water. I mean, those guys live in, and it's tough fishing. Those guys are some hardcore dudes rowing some big water. Throwing a lot of different flies, streamers, dry flies, nymphing, and everything. But yeah, I've fished a lot in Colorado, Wyoming. It's, talk about God's country. There's nobody around when you're out there. It is super peaceful, and the fish eat really well out there. They don't seem to be pressured as much as they are on the East Coast.
Yeah, a lot of pressure out this way, eh? So Cedar Run Lures Blake said, "Thanks, fellas. I'm wearing my Cortland hat. We learned a lot." So he's definitely, thank you for sending us those free hats every once in a while. We get the delivery of line. We always get some hats in there. So we appreciate the hats and stickers for sure. And sometimes we actually kind of re-gift them to other customers. There's a really good customer of ours. He's probably not following, but Black Pete out in Australia, he buys a lot of Cortland Dacron from us. And he has for, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years. He makes a lot of wind-ons for the big game fishing out there. We sometimes will stash a hat in there and some stickers and put that out there with his bulk spools. Another message came in with Fishing with TV. It says, I'm not sure if you can see these questions, Brooks, but it says, how y'all feel about the combos sold on the Cortland site for a guy who is a bass angler, says bit, to use fly fishing. I think it might have been for use to fly fish. So I really don't know much about the combos. I know we have like an entry level Cortland combo at the shop. I want to say it's an 8-weight or 7-weight.
Yep.
Like rod, reel, and line. It's all ready to rock and roll. And I want to say it's $79 or $99. It's like 100. I think it's $100, and you can go fish. Actually, it casts very well.
Yeah, it's right around $79 retail. As far as bass fishing goes, I mean, I don't care if you're largemouth, smallmouth, striped bass fishing goes, peacock bass, any bass goes. I really stick with an 8-weight. Our 8-foot 8 combo for $79. You're going to be able to throw some bigger flies, some poppers, some streamers. And you want to be able to drive the hook home on those fish. You don't want to be throwing a 5-weight, which is really nice, flexible rod for trout fishing, for super light line, you know what I mean? Because those fish are very gun shy, but bass are pretty, they're pretty dumb. They're going to eat anything. And you want to be able to hammer the hook home. You don't want to be getting an eat and missing a fish because your rod's super flimsy. So if I was going to buy a kit on, through Cortland or through a shop, it'd be the Fairplay 8-foot 8 9-weight combo. And for $79, I mean, you're not going to beat that to go beat up on some bass, whether you're a beginner, entry level, or really anybody.
Yeah. No, I would have to agree with you. We brought it in just because we wanted an entry level, affordable rod that offered some kind of quality. Like you mentioned, you don't want some wet noodle that's just gonna, there's no power to it. It's definitely nice that the kind of the whole outfit comes together. It's really balanced, nice. I think the performance on it's great. I mean, you get what you pay for. Obviously, that's why some people spend a lot more money on tackle to crazy degrees. But someone that's looking for that entry level, just to jump in the game, whether maybe it's a weekend warrior that's hardly ever fishing, a weekend here, it's a weekend there, or maybe it's say, hey, I'm just thinking about getting my feet wet with fly fishing. Let me try this out. It's definitely cool. Max just kind of gave a double thumbs up. He said, Greg taught me how to fly cast with that. So we had that right when you sent it. We cracked it out, and we were casting it, in the side yard at the shop. And I'd have to say, man, for $80, it's a no-brainer in all reality for somebody that wants to get involved and say, hey, there's a lot more striped bass, in our local area in New Jersey. There's a lot more smaller striped bass. There's an abundance of that smaller year class. smaller than 28 inches, which is the keeper size.
Sure.
And in my eyes, this was a couple of years ago, I kind of started looking at things and saying, you know, what are anglers going to do when these bigger fish aren't as abundant? And my eyes kind of told me that, you know, I'm going to be looking over there to that abundance of smaller fish and have fun with light tackle fishing. And that light tackle can kind of expand, you know, right into that fly game. And that's kind of what really didn't draw me to fly fishing at first, but got me kind of caught and more passionate about it is having fun and having more fun than other people. You know, everybody goes out and fishes and does what they want, but to me, I want to go out and have fun. And to me, I can have a lot of fun catching small schoolies on the fly, and it makes it much, much more challenging. So that's something that kind of drew me in. And I think anybody who wants to get involved with fly fishing, obviously I'm a charter captain. That's cool. If you want to pay me to take you fishing, great. But you can also stop by the shop and, you know, I'll give you free advice about how to kind of get wet with fly fishing for your first time. Or maybe you're down an angler and you're saying, hey, you know, I'm looking for a new line. We can kind of, you know, talk about some fly lines that Brooks and Cortland Line Company offer that we stock. A couple questions just popped in, so I want to kind of jump on these just because we're going to be running out of time here in a little bit. We didn't get the warning yet, but Dan Manny says, Brooks. So his shout out to Brooks. Ebros again says, quick question. Would I be able to come down to the beach? Was I able to fish for some sharks? The beach is closed. So the beaches on LBI are open. All of the beaches, all of LBI, 18 miles of beach open. You can come down. The only sharks you're going to find on the beach right now, it's a little cold, is going to be brown sharks. I'm sorry, it's going to be sand sharks, the dogfish. When it warms up, you'll start seeing brown sharks. You'll start seeing some sand tigers first, and then brown sharks when it gets warmer. Most of that's going to happen mid to late June. You will see a couple sand tigers right now with the colder water guys bunker chunking. We'll say, oh man, I had this huge runoff. It was a monster bass and broke me off. Most of the time, those fish are big sand tigers that show up. But as that water warms up, once it breaks, I'd say like 68 degrees, 66 in there, you start seeing more of these brown sharks or sandbar sharks. So hopefully that answers your question there. Yes, you can come to LBI and fish. Anybody looking to fish, fish report lbi.com. Fishinglbi.com. There's a fresh fish report post I threw up day before yesterday. There's definitely some fish on the beach, so you can come down and fish. Fishing with TV said, thanks for the order. Thanks for the order in the AM. I'm part of the Cortland Pro staff, commercial staff. I use Cortland Braid, largemouth fishing. So awesome to hear you got, you know, a shout out from one of your pro staff guys fishing the awesome Cortland products. We also got a shout out from Big Fish Argentina. Thanks for jumping on all the way from out in Argentina. It's far away. Hopefully you listen to me and Brooks kind of go back and forth about some fishing line today. Hopefully people learn some things. MKV Mikey says, how's the sea bass fishing down at LBI right now? So Mikey, sea bass opened last Friday. Today, the date of this video, because it's going to be archived, is May 20th. Last Friday it opened, and it was phenomenal. However, we had a pretty big blow here. We're still kind of in the middle of it, big nor'easter, and it's kind of got some things churned up. So the boats haven't been out recently. So I can't share a recent report as in like, hey man, this is what's going down today, yesterday, day before. However, the past weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, boats went out, guys caught fish, guys caught lots of fish. Going back to that fishinglbi.com, check it out. There's a post on there from Schwagmatic, Matt Sorrentino. He is an ambassador for Fisherman's Headquarters. He's also a very, very passionate and firm believer in the quality of products that we're talking about, Cortland Line. Schwag fishes all Cortland Line. He's been fishing it for a while. He's a major fan. He was out sea bass fishing this weekend. He did very well. His report's up. Check it out. It's about catching sea bass with no clams. So right now we've had a big clam shortage. Clams been super hard to get this year. It's been a trend going on for a few years. But if you guys want to go sea bass and you can't find fresh clam, gear up with Cortland Line and gear up with some small jigs, and you can go out there and jig the hell out of these fish and have a blast. So Mikey, if you're looking to fish, man, we got some better weather coming. I think it's going to lay down probably Saturday. Friday's still a little bumpy. Saturday, Sunday definitely should be a good day to get out. Hopefully that wind stays light. That's the forecast is showing. There'll probably be a little residual swell, but you could probably get to those inshore wrecks. and fish, say, 60 to 80 foot of water, and I think you'll have some good fishing. I think you'll probably have good fishing for about 2 more weeks. I'm just going to go out there and take a stab and claim that. Reason being is in 2 weeks, you'll have a lot more pressure, and a lot of these spots will start getting fished out. And I think as this water really starts creeping up and getting warmer, you'll see a lot of these fish push off into deeper water wrecks. Just my 2 cents. Mike, you just sent another question. What kind of jigs are we talking about? I'm going to stop by this weekend. So check out that blog from Schwag, fishinglbi.com, and scroll down. It's going to be a blog or 2 there. You'll see it right up top. I'm talking Ava jigs, the most common classic jig there is, diamond jig. A17, A27. Those 2 sizes can't go wrong with. You can catch just about anything that's in the sea, from bluefish to straight bass, throw them at false albacore. You can jig larger tuna with them, you catch cod with them, and you definitely catch sea bass with them. So that's my 2 cents there. You could also use something like the Hoagie epoxy jig. There's lots and lots of jigs out there. You get crazy in the whole Japanese jig market and start looking at some slow pitch jigs. That whole game is, as Brooke said before, getting into the weeds. So we'll stay out of that for right now. If there's anything you want to say, Brooks, it's all you. But I just want to thank you and say that I think this is very informative. I learned a lot. I'm hoping everybody that followed learned a lot, and appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks to you guys for supporting Cortland, and thanks to your customers for supporting you at the shop. I know we appreciate it, and things have been tough. I know that for everybody. Luckily, we're all fishermen, and whether you got a job or not, you're going out fishing. That's one thing. That's one thing nobody can take away from anybody right now. And no, I'm super happy to jump on tonight. I'm grateful for the place that I work at. I'm super happy to be there. I'm grateful for the people that work with me day in and day out, whether it's customer service or the braiding department. Super thankful, to our suppliers, here in the U.S. And, at the end of the day, when you support Fisherman's Headquarters and you buy Cortland, I mean, you're buying American made, and you're buying right up the road. So you, like I said before, you can always reach out to Greg or myself or Cortland. You can pick up the phone and you can talk or a comment, concern, no matter what it is. So feel free to do that. And, again, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Keep up the good work, dude. I mean, you guys are doing an awesome job, making some awesome products. Like I just talked about, whatever it was yesterday or so when I first threw this out there and said, hey, bro, you want to jump on live with me? I was super stoked to have you. You were automatically like, yeah, absolutely. But like I talked about, I definitely need some fly lines. So there's definitely an order coming soon. I know we got some of the booking orders coming, so I know we're going to be fully stocked with braid. So anybody looking for braid, you want to spool up, maybe you've never tried Cortland, now's the time. Always best to spool up pre-season or at the beginning of the season, which obviously we're in the season now, but I suggest spooling up at the beginning of the season. This way you kind of go through that whole season and are confident with what you're fishing. So everyone wants braid, everyone wants some Cortland products, whether it's fly line, their solid master braid, or C16 big game. Give us a shout, we'll spool you up. So thanks again, Cortland. Thanks Brooks for jumping on. Thanks for making awesome products. And thank you for everybody watching. Have a good night.
Thanks, Ray. See ya.
See you, bro.